Over the last, I would say probably 10 years, I've come to a realization, and that is Ridley Scott's my favorite filmmaker. Like, bar none, he's just my favorite. I'm down for pretty much anything he wants to do. And I thought it'd be cool if we did kind of a series on this channel doing reviews of all of Ridley Scott's filmography. So let's do it. Let's get into it. Let's start with Legend. Legend is a magical fantasy story about the Lord of Darkness who seeks to destroy the last of the unicorns to extinguish light from the world forever. The forest boy Jack teams up with a strange band of elven allies to save Princess Lili and defeat darkness. The movie stars Tom Cruise, Mia Sara, and Tim Curry. Actually, I've already reviewed a Ridley Scott movie on this channel, and that's for Black Rain, which is up there if you want to see that. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't a big fan of that one. But I think one of the big criticisms that Ridley Scott seems to get is that he's almost more interested in evoking a feeling rather than telling a coherent story sometimes. And sure, I think that's a valid criticism, but at the same time, it's one of those things that I think is so beautiful about the way he works, the way he frames the action, the way that he tells his story. I really, really like Ridley Scott's style. And Legend is a perfect example of one of those movies that was critically panned. Honestly, didn't make very much money, but it's got this following. It's got a very, very loyal cult following that, well, I'm a part of. I grew up with the American cut, of course, the 94-minute cut, and yeah, the thing that I realized even as a kid was that the movie is almost dreamlike, or like kind of like a music video in a way, where it's like this scene happens and then this scene happens. There's not like a super coherent story in the American cut, which is something that I've never really minded, but it is something, especially when I've gotten older, I've realized how truncated it is, and yeah, there's kind of a reason for that. The score, I should mention, is by Tangerine Dream. I've always loved that score. It's just something it's always been kind of in the back of my head. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I've always loved stories like this, or I guess like fantasy or sword and shield kind of stories. I've always loved these kinds of stories, but yeah, the score is so good. But the international cut, which is, let's be honest, it's far superior to the American cut. I mean, it's about 30 minutes longer, and it is so much better. But that cut is scored by Jerry Goldsmith, and he's known for a lot of different scores over the years. I mean, he did Alien, Gremlins, Star Trek the Motion Picture, Wrath of Khan, The Omen, and Total Recall. So yeah, he's kind of one of those composers that's been doing amazing work for years. There's a scene sort of, I guess, about halfway through the movie where it's kind of like the seducing of Lily, over to the dark side in a way, and this dress shows up and is kind of dancing along with her, and it's always been one of the most memorable scenes to me, including the score. So it was really interesting when I watched the director's cut, or the international cut again. Goldsmith's score is actually kind of horrifying, and it's I guess it's because it reminds me so much of his score from Poltergeist. It's very, very creepy stuff. One of the stories that's actually really kind of interesting is during test screening of Legend, there were these people that, let's he just said they were smoking pot, and they were kind of laughing through certain parts, and they just weren't responding to the film the way he wanted, and it freaked him and apparently the studio out, because they said, nope, we need to cut this movie down. We need to we need to make a lot of changes to this. Of course, Scott basically said later that yeah, that was a mistake. The interesting thing is the international cut with Jerry Goldsmith's score, again, about 30 minutes longer, it is radically different. It feels like a different movie, because it's definitely more geared toward, like, it's almost like a fable told to adults instead of a movie that's sort of geared toward children. And apparently that's what Universal wanted, is they wanted this to be more of a movie that was geared toward kids. They came in and said, let's cut this thing down. Let's throw a Tangerine's Dream score on it, and let's go with that. It really didn't work. But to me, though, the movie is just, I love it. I just love it. And yeah, it's not a movie that I can watch over and over and over again, but I'm so glad that I got this Blu-ray, and I'll go over the all the special features and stuff here in a minute. Now let's talk about the actors a little bit here. So Tom Cruise, right? This is one of his first roles, and honestly, there's not a whole lot for him to do that would set him apart from other actors of that generation, if that makes sense. It's not like he brought something completely special and unique to his performance in this movie. The movie just didn't call for it, so there wasn't a whole lot for him to sink his teeth into. And yeah, I mean, he's not bad at all. It's just not very memorable of a performance. And of course, later that year, see, like Legend was released late 1985 in the UK, early 1986 in the US, and of course, summer 1986 is when Top Gun was released. And yeah, we all know what happened there. The thing about Mia Sara is she's kind of always been like, this is what I think of when I think of Mia Sara, and I think most people would probably remember her from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. But this is the movie that I remember her from, and I don't understand why she wasn't a bigger star. Maybe it's because this movie was so poorly received, but I really enjoyed her in this movie. I'm really curious how this movie would play today, to someone who's never seen it before. But like I kind of get that it may not play very well. Like it's like, man, that's a really bad movie. But there's a couple of different reasons that I think that people should watch this movie today. The absolutely just insane set design and creature work. The it's just ridiculous. I mean, Tim Curry as Darkness. I mean, he in the international cut, he doesn't show up until about an hour into the runtime, but he is unbelievable in this role. And I can't think of anybody else that could have played this part as well as Tim Curry could. And there's so much information on this Blu-ray about the kind of the work that it took to design Darkness and all of the crazy makeup and prosthetics that they had to do. I mean, we're talking 5.5 hours to apply that. It's a crazy role, and like I said, Tim Curry will forever be Darkness to me. If you've been around this channel for any amount of time, you would know that I'm a sucker for special features. I'm a sucker for the stories behind the movies. Like how did we get here? How was this movie made? And that's the kind of stuff that I love this stuff. And so yeah, I figured we'd go over a couple of cool little tidbits from the movie. There's been this persistent rumor that's been going around for years, and I think most people would probably still, if they even knew about this, they would tell you that yeah, all that unicorn footage that's in Blade Runner, yeah, that's just unused footage from Legend. Not true at all. It's just not true, because Blade Runner was filmed in 1981 and Legend was filmed in 1984, and the work print for Blade Runner that's been around since the movie was put together, yeah, the unicorn footage was already there. It's interesting that Ridley Scott continues to use this symbol, of the unicorn, at least in a couple of movies, back to back, really. And but yeah, it has nothing to do with each other. I mean, the unicorn footage was filmed for Blade Runner, and that's really it. I think one of the most famous things surrounding this movie too was the burning down of the Bond stage at Pinewood Studios. So the Bond stage was created for The Spy Who Loved Me, actually. And it's one of the largest stages in movie making, right? Well, during the filming of Legend, with 10 days left to film, the stage burned down. Like, burned down. And if you didn't know, they created the forest inside the Bond stage. And there were actually animals that moved in, and pigeons moved in and all this kind of stuff. They actually, treated it like a real forest. And yeah, it was just an absolutely amazing set. But when the news that the Bond stage was burning down, Ridley was apparently in the middle of putting together some shots and things like that, maybe doing some quick editing. He just said, "Right, I'm gonna go play tennis." Didn't bother him at all. He just went on to do something else. And apparently they only lost 3 days of filming, which is just really, really kind of impressive and amazing that their set decorators were that good that they just rolled with the punches, I guess. Now the design of the goblin or demon Blix was actually inspired by Alice Playton. She said, "Yeah, I think he should look like Keith Richards." And Ridley Scott loved that idea so much that he included all of those ideas when he presented it to Rob Bottin to start putting together the designs for the character, which I think is it's just cool. One of the things that always kind of bothered me, even as a kid, was that the characters of Blix and Pox, which Pox is kind of like the little pig guy, they just kind of disappear from the story after presenting the unicorn to darkness, which is just really strange. The script actually shows them cowering behind a pillar during the last fight sequence, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. So there's no resolution to kind of their characters at all. What's also kind of interesting too is that Jack apparently in this version of the script, he gets impaled by the alicorn, which is I guess the name of the horn on the unicorn. But he doesn't bleed and he doesn't die, and it's kind of like this big reveal that he's immortal, which I thought that was kind of cool. Now, Era Films did release this recently, and it's basically a 2-disc Blu-ray with a bunch of extra stuff in it. I mean, it comes with this really, really nice book that it's just really nice. Kind of some behind-the-scenes stuff on that. This was my first Arrow Blu-ray, and I have to say, I'm just in love with their presentation. Again, more stuff in here, like little lobby cards in here, and the slip. If you want the original art for the movie, you can just flip that around and put that on there. I just think that's a really, really nice touch. And if you want, it comes with a full poster as well. So yeah, it's the artwork that they put on the Blu-ray, and if you want the original art, you can have that as well. So cool. Also, these really, really nice glossy photos as well. Just super, super cool stuff. So I guess that's about all I have to say about Legend, at least right now. Legend's one of my favorite movies. Unapologetically love it. I've always loved it, and I love it even more now. I think the director's cut is fantastic, and I would highly recommend you picking up the Blu-ray if you have the chance. Unfortunately, I've seen that they're already selling out, and the prices are starting to go up on it. But let me know down below what you think of Legend. Have you ever seen it? Most likely you didn't like it. In fact, a lot of people didn't like it, but that's one of those things, right? But guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. So I guess that's all yeah. Bye.